last story for this series. It'll be done, at least for this part of the course, it'll be done over 2 lessons, and it's a particularly interesting story, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It really represents an icon in the Quran, and we'll see why as we go through today's lessons, inshallah. There's a lot of important wisdoms that we gain out of the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. I think to begin with, what we'll observe through this next 2 lessons is he was tested in many different ways with his family, his community, his children. So he's experienced quite a dynamic life, but really a sincere servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes an icon in terms of its story through the Quran. What we also observe is one very important characteristic of the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam is the use of logic. And we'll see how he tries to convey the truth using common sense to get across to communities as such. The other interesting term that's applied to Ibrahim alayhi salam is the term Halim. And Halim really implies some degree of softness and great concern for others. We find the story about how he speaks to his father, his community, really reflecting that. And even goes even further in terms of his concern, not just for his generation, but for generations to come as well. Now, we often hear the term Ibrahim Khalil, right? What does Khalil mean? Friend, okay? So let's look at this reference here, Surah 4 verse 125. And see where the term occurs, right? 4 verse 125. Page? 62. 62. Who wants to read for us?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Who can be better in religion than the one who submits his whole self to Allah, does good and follows the way of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the truth in faith. For Allah did make Ibrahim alayhi salam for a friend, but to Allah belongs all things in the heavens and on earth, and He is the encompasses of all things.
Excellent, Jazakallah. We see a description about Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Allah says, Allah had taken Ibrahim for a friend. It's a very close relationship with Ibrahim alayhi salam, and each prophet had their own closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the title given to Ibrahim alayhi salam is the friend of Allah, the Khalil of Allah. And we find that his life story is really about pristine tawheed, pristine and pure commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's really highlighted in some of the stories that occur. He had 2 sons. One was Ismail alayhi salam, and the second one was Ishaq. And I think, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the genealogy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But of the 2 sons, we had Ismail, and down the pathway was the final prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a descendant of Ismail. And often there's been this history about the Arabs and the Jews, but in essence they were all from the same geography essentially. Him having 2 children, which was Ismail, the elder, and then Ishaq, the second child. And of the lineage of Ishaq was Yaqub alayhi salam, and from there multiple prophets, but among them were Yusuf, Musa, and Isa alayhi salam. So they all came down that lineage. So we often hear of the children of Israel. Where does the term come from? And who are the children of Israel? Any idea? Yaqub, right? So Yaqub alayhi salam is also known as Israel. So that was another term that was applied to Yaqub alayhi salam. And that's where we get the children of Israel. So from Ishaq we had the children of Israel, and from them were other descendants. And finally, Yusuf alayhi salam was of that lineage as well, of the Bani Israel. And we'll briefly touch on some of that tonight as well. So there's a lot to cover in terms of the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And what we'll go through is just highlight some of the key stories around Ibrahim alayhi salam, from which we can take important lessons. Right, so when we think of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's often called the patriarch of monotheism. Right? And where does that term come from? He is a common ancestor to which religion? The Jews, the Christians, and Muslims. So fundamentally, the pure origins were monotheism from all three, obviously from the three great prophets, which were obviously Musa, Isa, and finally the Prophet Muhammad. And they were all descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And if you look at the three great religions today, can attribute their origins primarily to Ibrahim alayhi salam. But what's interesting is that although it's a shared history between Muslims, Christians and Jews, they all claim lineage to Ibrahim alayhi salam. But this verse is very clear. It's in Surah 3 verse 67 and 68. Ibrahim was not a Jew nor yet a Christian, but he was true in faith and bowed his whole to Allah's, which is Islam, or he was a Muslim, and he joined not God with Allah. Without doubt among men, the nearest of kin to Ibrahim are those who follow him, as also this prophet and those who believe. And Allah is the protector of those who have faith. So you see, although each religion has claimed Ibrahim alayhi salam as their own, the Jews would claim ownership of that personality. We find that the verses, let's actually look at the selection because it makes it even clearer. Let's look at Surah 3 verse 67. I want you to read the verses around that specific verse. 37. Yeah. I want us to read from verse 65 on page 37. Who wants to read first verse 65? Volunteers? Okay.
You people of the book, why dispute you about Abraham, when the Torah and the Gospel, Injil, were not revealed till after him? Have you no understanding? You are those who fell in disputing, even in matters of which you had some knowledge. But why dispute you in matters of which you have no knowledge? It is Allah who knows, and you know not. Abraham was not a Jew, not yet a Christian, but he was true in faith and bowed his will to Allah, which is Islam, and he joined not gods with Allah.
Okay. We see that the description given here is that they claim that you are Jewish or Christian, but in reality the Torah and the Injil from which these people created their own inventions and named themselves Jews and Christians came much later. So his origins are actually as one who submitted his will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We find that true for every prophet that it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So although he's a patriarchal, or he's sort of the ancestral link between all the great religions, but his true title is the patriarch of monotheism. And we're going to come to see, when I talk of his pristineness in terms of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and monotheism, we'll find his story is purely about bringing people to the oneness of Allah. And he argues in different ways to try and illustrate the greatness and grandeur of Allah against any form of false worship. Alright, so the last thing I'd like to highlight about Ibrahim alayhi salam is really two very beautiful verses that describe the character of Ibrahim alayhi salam and why his example is so important in the series of the prophets as such. Now I want us to go to Surah 16 verse 123. We'll read the three verses on that page. Surah 16 verse 123.
189.
Uncle is sharp.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Page of, what is that again?
189.
189. Let's read from verse 120. Any volunteers? Any volunteers? Verse 120 to the end of that paragraph.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ibrahim was indeed a model, devotedly obedient to Allah, and true in faith, and he joined not gods with Allah. He showed his gratitude for the favors of Allah, who chose him and guided him to a straight way. And we gave him good in this world, and he will be in the year after in the ranks of the righteous. So we have taught you the inspired message, follow the ways of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the truth in faith, and he joined not God with Allah.
So here we see the first statement in verse 120, Ibrahim was indeed a model. And Arabic is, he was an ummah. When we think of the word ummah, what do we think of?
As a nation.
A nation, right? And Allah described Ibrahim as a nation. He sort of represents humanity and that monotheism that was established from the time of Adam through Nuh, through all the prophets. And he serves as this perfect example of monotheism. So that's one important quality that's described of Ibrahim. And at the end of 123, follow the ways of Ibrahim. It says follow the millah of Ibrahim. And who is this instruction given to? Who is being told to follow the millah of Ibrahim? Yes, Muhammad and us today as well. Because he served as this icon of Tawheed as such. And then I want us to look at the next reference here, Surah 60, verses 4 to 6. Page 392. Okay. Right, so once we read for us verse 4 to 6.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So he is for you an excellent example to follow in Ibrahim alayhi salam and those with him when they said to their people, we are clear of you and of whatever you worship besides Allah. We have rejected you, and there has arisen between us and you enmity and hatred forever, unless you believe in Allah and Him alone. But not when Ibrahim said to his father, I will pray for forgiveness for you, though I have no power to get anything on your behalf from Allah. They prayed, our Lord, in you do we trust, and to you do we return in repentance. To you is our final goal.
Right, I think we can stop there. What you see here is that, again, I want to highlight that there's an excellent example for you to follow in that of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And again, here we see that he's very aggressive. He actually declares people that give partners to Allah as his enemies, right? In the sense that he's, it's unjustifiable what people are doing. You know, when you think about crime, it's like so brutal that you get upset. And when Ibrahim alayhi salam deals with the topic of Tawheed, he actually gets upset because of the unjustifiable association with Allah, who is beyond such reproach as such. What's interesting about that verse, it describes that first sentence there, the word uswatun hasana is used. And have you heard of the term uswatun hasana before?
Yeah.
For who? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they share that quality, the uswatun hasana, an excellent example. We refer to the Prophet as an excellent example, and the same term in Arabic there is referred to Ibrahim alayhi salam. We find that relationship between Ibrahim alayhi salam and the Prophet Muhammad is very similar, with a very strong emphasis on bringing the message of Tawheed to people. Right, so that really gives us in some characteristics and nature of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And now what we'll go through is some stories of Ibrahim alayhi salam and focus a bit on the lessons around what he had done and what he had achieved. Right, so the first was addressing his father Azar. And so what you'll notice, I'm presenting this information as an event. We're not doing a timeline. The main issue is around presenting information about lessons. Right? And the first was his father, Azar. And Azar was a polytheist, he was a mushrik, he gave partners to Allah, and history tells us that he was actually a sculptor of idols as such. And if you read what Ibrahim Islam, in terms of how he addresses his father, bear in mind that father-son relationship is quite a sensitive relationship. And we're going to see the story between Ibrahim Islam and his father. And then later in the next lesson, we'll look at Ibrahim Islam as a father and his son Ismail. Different generation and a different story. And mentioned in the book, the Quran, Ibrahim, indeed, he was a man of truth, a prophet. When he said to his father, Ya Abati, O my father, why do you worship that which hears not, sees not, and cannot avail you in anything? O my father, Ya Abati, verily there has come to me of knowledge that which came not unto you. So follow me, I will guide you to a straight path. So what do you notice about the way Ibrahim addresses his father? Very respectful. You know, we talk of Halim, caring, forgiving, wishing, or great concern to others. And that's how we see the example of Ibrahim. Even when you read the du'as of Ibrahim Islam, very touching, very soft, very emotional. And he speaks in such beautiful words, but yet he puts the truth across in a very nice way. He says, why do you worship something that doesn't hear, doesn't see, can't benefit you? Right? But he couches it so nicely, in a very beautiful manner, to address his father and try to convince him of the truth. How do you think his father responds? Bear in mind, his father is a sculptor, people come to him to buy the stuff from him. He'd be happy. Right, so let's see how the story continues. His father says, do you reject my gods, O Ibrahim? If you do not stop, I will indeed stone you. So get away from me safely before I punish you. So really, he addresses his father beautifully, and his father obviously is upset that his own son is supposed to be following his example, not challenging what he's doing. So, but how does Ibrahim Islam continue in the narrative? Ibrahim said, peace be upon you. I will ask forgiveness for you of my Lord. Indeed, He is ever gracious to me. And I will leave you and those you invoke other than Allah, and I will invoke my Lord. I expect that I will not be in invocation to my Lord unhappy. So he makes this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he doesn't get upset. He doesn't get furious, but yet he still keeps that relative dignity, and he says that he will stick to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in essence pray for his father. The story continues. So this was the first sort of addressing his father, taking on the challenge that he faced. And bear in mind, in this society, it wasn't just his father, it was the entire community that he needed to challenge. So the first example is where he addresses his father in a very mild form, trying to convince him of the truth. The second is addressing his community. And obviously the father and the community are inseparable. And recite to them the story of Ibrahim, when he said to his father and his people, what do you worship? Again, the same, challenging the mindset. They said, we worship idols, and to them we are ever devoted. He said, do they hear you when you call on them? Or do they benefit you, or do they harm you? They said, nay, but we found our forefathers doing so. He said, do you observe that which you have been worshipping, you and your ancient forefathers? And the story continues. I think let's actually look at this reference here. Let's go to Surah 26. It's actually more meaningful to read the full series. 26, 69.
Page 256. Yeah.
26, 69.
256.
Yeah. So we can continue here. Verily, they are enemies to me, save the Lord of all that exists. So what we find is that he first again asks questions to probe. And then he says, it's quite striking, you say, these are enemies to me. Right? So what we'll see also in the nature of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he uses wisdom, but in some ways this youthful follower of his also there's some rebellious nature in him. And you find that if you look at the last story we'll come to, he actually challenges and pushes the barrier to force people to think. And he says, really, they are enemies to me. Bear in mind that his father is upset with him. Now he goes to the community and tells them, these are my enemies. Right? So he's really, normally people are very kind and polite, but sometimes it doesn't really force people to think. And here he challenges his community. And then he says something most striking. Save the Lord of all that exists, who has created me. It is he who guides me. It is he who feeds me and gives me to drink. When I am ill, it is he who cures me. And who will cause me to die and then will bring me to life again. So this selection really brings some, very concrete living example. Something that could touch a normal individual. You could appreciate your food, your drink. These are not coming from the idols, they're coming from somewhere. And the somewhere is the Lord of the world as such. So we find that the first two examples I put for you are fairly mild examples, probing, pushing. And we see the wisdom of Ibrahim in terms of how he conveys his message. The third group he addresses now in a different set or different event in the life story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, in Surah 6 verse 76, and I think we'll read it from the translation here. Surah 6 verse 76.
Page 88.
Page 88. You can read from verse 74 actually. Page 88, I'll read it for you. Right? Ibrahim said to his father Azar, take your idols for gods, for I see you and your people in manifest error. So also did we show Ibrahim the power and the Lord of the heavens and the earth, that he might with understanding have certitude of conviction. When the night covered him, he saw a star. He said, this is my Lord. But when it set, he said, I love not those that set. Then he turns his gaze. When he saw the moon rising in splendor, he said, this is my Lord. But when the moon set, he said, unless my Lord guide me, I shall surely be among those who go astray. So here he highlights the sun, and you see the sun in the star, and it disappears through the night. This is massive, beautiful moon, and come to morning time, it's gone. But these are their gods. But you notice what is the kind of concept that Ibrahim Islam is pushing across. The star is there and it's temporal. It's there and it goes away. The moon is there and goes away. And then, when he saw the sun rising in splendor, he said, this is my Lord, this is the greatest of all. But when the sun set, he said, O my people, I am indeed free from your guilt of giving partners to Allah. So, what you find is that he uses beautiful wisdom in conveying a truth that's, the truth sometimes is very obvious, but sometimes you've got to make it clear, although it's obvious. And then the next part of the verse goes on, where Ibrahim Islam says, for me I have set my face firmly and truly towards him who created the heavens and the earth, and never shall I give partners to Allah. Very beautiful dua, and we all read it. Where? Which? Inni wajahtu wajhiya lillah. This is the origin of, it is the context of the dua. That when we stand for prayer, we make this declaration like we wipe out everything else because nothing is worthy of being worshipped by Allah. And that's the purity we start off our salawat. So you find a lot of links between Ibrahim alayhi salam and the Prophet and the things we do as such. So there was one other example of wisdom. So we found the discussion with his father, fairly polite. Discussion with community, calling them enemies and giving them things to think about. Here he addresses his community, those that are worshipping stars and the moon, etc., and conveys the truth in a very, I mean, you could say, what are you worshipping, But then he says, look at it, now it's gone. Look at it, now it's gone, and trying to push forward that truth to his community. Then I've selected just this last one to really highlight another aspect of Ibrahim Islam's challenge to his community. And it's sort of like a drama scene, slowly building up. And here we find a very different style in which Ibrahim Islam challenges his community. And like I mentioned, it's in some ways rebellious, but that rebellion is really couched with wisdom, couched with logic. So what you'll notice in both examples I've given, Ibrahim Islam uses wisdom, but he also uses logic. He says, do they hear you? Can they talk? And really pushes basic common sense and logic. So I want us to go to Surah 21, verse 57.
Okay.
21, 57.
224.
Okay, it's too fast for me. 57. Very slow. 57, right? Okay, so we'll read from, let's see, from 51, I'll just start off. We must start aforetime on Ibrahim's rectitude of conduct, and well were we acquainted with him. Behold, he said to his father and his people, what are these images to which you are so assiduously devoted? They said, we found our fathers worshipping them. He said, indeed, you have been in manifest error, you and your fathers. So, but what's also interesting about the story of Ibrahim Islam is, again, the dogma that people develop, the cultural habits that people develop. That, it's what we've always done and we continue to do. And, when you think of Ibrahim Islam in that ancient time, he still faced dogmas preceding him, So it's quite amazing. They said, have you brought us the truth, or are you one of those who are joking? He said, no, your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. He who created them from nothing, and I am witness to this truth. And by Allah, I have a plan for your idols, after you go away and turn your backs. Right? So, very naughty, eh? So he really, what's amazing is he challenges and he pushes. And especially when it comes to dogmas, you've actually got to force people to think because they've paralyzed their thinking and their conscience. And then he says, so he broke them to pieces, all but the biggest of them, that they might turn and address themselves to it. Right, so he breaks them all and leaves the big one. He said, who has done this to our gods? He must indeed be some man of impiety. Right. So this is the friend of Allah being called an impious person. Eh? Amazing. They said, we heard a youth talk of them. He is called Ibrahim. They said, bring him before the eyes of the people that they may bear witness. They said, are you the one that did this with our gods, O Ibrahim? He said, Bala. So, Bala is not necessarily no, but, you're not answering Bala. This was done by, this is their biggest one. Ask them if they can speak intelligently. Right. So really a rebellious nature, but still on another hand, making it so pristinely clear. Right. What do the people say? I mean, they faced these, finished them up, right? I mean, they got nowhere to put their faces, right? So they turned to themselves, surely you are the ones in the wrong. Then they were confounded with shame. They said, You know full well that these idols do not speak. Right? Completely like, checkmate. Right? Because they finally come in advance. Right? But what do you think of the story of Ibrahim? He strategized. He applied strategy, wisdom, logic to really come and knock over this false dogma. Ibrahim said, "Do you then worship besides other things that can neither be of any good to you, nor do you harm? Curse upon you and upon the things that you worship besides Allah. Have you no sense?" And what is the response? Will people accept the truth?
No.
Too much to lose. They said, "Burn him and protect your gods if you do anything at all." We said, "Oh Nar, oh fire, be cool and a means of safety for Ibrahim." Then they sought a stratagem against him, but we made them the ones that lost. And then verse 71 talks of the story of Lut. And then later on we bestowed on him Ishaq as an additional gift, a grandson Yaqub, and we made righteous men of every one of them. So here we see the story concluding in terms of the wisdom that he applied. But what also you'll notice in the style of the Quran, 2 verses later it talks of Ishaq. And Ishaq was at his end of his life. So there's a huge jump in the story. But you'll notice what I've done is just provide you selections of events. And these are, sort of, the Quran is like a puzzle that provides a beautiful picture, a surah. And these stories are sort of placed in, hoping to convey a certain type of message in a certain context in which it is stated as such. But fundamentally from the story that we see here, it's a strategy with, pushing logic, and in some ways being a bit rebellious, but applying wisdom in that process as such. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, he is sort of an icon in the Quran, an icon of wisdom, of tawheed, of logic as well. So, with that, I'm going to conclude today's lesson. We've split the story of Ibrahim a.s. into 2 parts. So, this is just sort of the early phase in terms of him dealing with his father and his community, and how he pushes them to think. What we observe, at least in this first part of the story, was an example of pristine purity of faith and conviction. So if you look at each time, he says, "I free myself of all what you guys are doing, giving partners to Allah." We'll see in the next lesson where he gets upset, he declares them enemies if anyone gives partners to Allah. So he takes an absolutely strong stance in terms of that concept of ensuring that people are focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do you think it's so important? Why is Tawheed so important? What is wrong with shirk? Fundamentally, what is wrong with shirk? As a human, you have dignity. You have honor. Allah has honored the sons of Adam. And when you pray to an idol, you become lower than a stone. Right? You actually enslave yourself. You enslave yourself to things that are not worth being enslaved to. And the second thing is you shackle your minds and behavior in a very warped fashion. And it hampers humanity's progress as such. So although it seems like, it's just an idol that they're praying to, but fundamentally it has a great impact on humans and their ability to liberate themselves to become servants of the ultimate. What you also see in the story of Ibrahim is how he has to challenge his own father and his community. Very difficult. You can go to Interlang or Artisville and give dawah, but give dawah in your community, give dawah, you face your own people, and he had to face his own father and his father who played an important role. So we learn a lot of hikmah in terms of the test that Ibrahim had to undergo, and we'll see in the next story the blessings that he received and the challenges he still faced, but yet at the end he's called Khalilullah, a great friend of Allah that faced those challenges. As I highlighted, the issues around wisdom, but also logic. We'll see in the next lesson how he was a person who questioned. He applied a questioning, but he didn't do a questioning like the Bani Israel, not to obey a command. His questioning was always to gain conviction and certainty. And in the same way, when he argues with his people, is to gain the conviction through understanding that there can be only one Allah. Because one thing you must bear in mind, idolatry did not just happen. It was a contamination of true belief. Right? It was a contamination of true belief. And I want us just to look at one reference on that topic. I almost forgot. 1 second. Yeah. Let's look at Surah 6, verse 82. Surah 6, verse 82. That you were at it just now. 682. 82. Yeah, page 88. So I'll read from 81. So he continues now after that. How should I fear the beings you associate with Allah when you fear not to give partners to Allah without any warrant having been given to you? Which of us two parties has more right to security? Right? So, it's quite an amazing way of putting the truth across. And then he concludes a very amazing statement. It is those who believe and confuse not their beliefs with wrong that are truly in security for their own right guidance. It's a very important statement there. It is those who believe and confuse not their beliefs with wrong that are truly in security and on right guidance. And if you think of idolatry, it's evolution. If you look at Adam Islam came with the true message, what transpired afterwards? Idolatry. Noah Islam came, he brought the message, converted, and idolatry followed.
The modern world got materialism,
exactly.
Which is idolatry.
You look at Isa alayhi salam and the Son of God, right? So the importance of human reasoning is critical to make sure that people can understand why they believe in certain things. That idolatry is blind following. Fundamentally, there is no logic to what they're doing. And that's what Ibrahim alayhi salam challenges. Right? And here we see an important statement, those who confuse not their beliefs with wrong. And how do you avoid that contamination? You've got to have good argument. Right? You should always be alert to throwing in things. And if you look at how things, the idols were meant to be representations of God because people want to see things. They want to physically see. It's difficult to imagine an invisible God. So they say, okay, we'll make a representation here. But we pray, if you ask the Hindus, they say, no, we pray to God via this thing, right? So people want something material, but then when you look at the logic of Ibrahim alayhi salam comes, it says, can that thing represent God? Can that thing really? I can break it, no. Right? So that logic and wisdom of Ibrahim alayhi salam is critical. The one other thing I wanted to highlight as well, I forgot to mention, is that we find that Ibrahim alayhi salam has the most beautiful du'as in the story, and many of the du'as we recite often are the du'as of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he prayed for his father, right? And he prayed for the forgiveness of his father. But is that acceptable? His father was mushrik. And his father tried to stone him. Part of the group tried to burn him. And what's interesting, I want us just to look at one last reference before we go to the last two concluding points. It's in Surah 9, verse 114. Yeah, we can read from verse 113 and 114. We'll read first 133. Verse 113 and 114.
It is not fitting for the Prophet and those who believe they should pray for forgiveness for pagans, even though they be of kin, after it is clear to them that they are companions of the fire. And Abraham prayed for his father's forgiveness only because of a promise he had made to him. But when it became clear to him that he was an enemy to Allah, he disassociated himself from him. For Abraham was most tender-hearted, forbearing.
So very beautiful. If you think of it, should you pray? And he prayed for his father, and he honored that promise. Right? He said, I'm going to pray for you, and he honored that promise. Even in spite of all the challenges he faced with his father. And then Allah clarifies that, when it became clear to him that he was an enemy to Allah, he dissociated himself. And Allah described Ibrahim as most tender-hearted, forbearing. So the nature of Ibrahim, although he was rebellious in some ways, but he was very tender-hearted. And he loved his, he had affection for people. And that was an important characteristic of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But here we see the distinguishing line where it's drawn is when it becomes clear. So if you look at what he presented to his community, right up to breaking the big idol, breaking all the idols except the big one, right? It became like blatantly clear, And after this, it is a self-determined choice of his father that he chose a specific pathway. Right. Just to conclude now, I think what's important, I highlighted right at the beginning, that even the Prophet is tasked to follow the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam. We can see why already. But there's a lot of wisdom and brilliance in the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this is actually what the Prophet had actually followed through. He was a model, he was an ummah, and he was a great example. He was uswatun hasana as well. That set an important benchmark against which we need to try and live up to. And then we'll cover the rest next week in terms of his lasting legacy. So we haven't even touched his children, and but bear in mind he prayed for his kids. He went through this episode, and the next episode will continue, inshallah. But if you think of it, the lasting legacy is left has, conquered the world, if you think about it. Ibrahim alayhi salam is known across the globe as well. Right, Jazakallah khair.